Hi, Nick here from Greenspace Zambia with another My Greenspace video. Today we're going to look at another group of indoor plants, the arrowhead vines. Their scientific name is Syngonium podophyllum, and they get their nickname, arrowhead vines, because of that kind of arrow shape to the leaf, including with these kind of barbed lobes at the base of the leaf. It is a very easy plant to grow indoors, not wanting direct light. And you might actually see these growing outside in Zambia, underneath trees and things like that, even then climbing trees, because as the name suggests, it is a vining or a creeping plant that produces longer stems that will travel far away from where the actual main root of the plant is, and rooting at the nodes here and there. So especially outdoors under certain trees, people will plant it and then just let the vine kind of circle around the base of the tree, moving the vines back in as it starts to creep away too much from the base. They are very straightforward in terms of care indoors. Again, they don't want bright, direct sun. That will end up scorching the leaves too much. They prefer indirect and or reflected light. If it is too dark, it will let you know by wanting to grow towards where the light is coming from. So then you can either move it or just kind of let that new growth kind of coil and get a fuller plant over time. They are very interesting for the different type of leaf colors that they have been bred for. So here I've got 4 different varieties. Unfortunately, I don't necessarily know the names of them. They don't come as named varieties here in Zambia, unfortunately. And looking up on the internet, you get some that kind of look like what we might have here, but are not necessarily that. So I've not been able to name them specifically. But if anybody can, you can always leave a comment in the video below and just let us know what they are. This variety here, it has the kind of nice green with slightly pink variegation more into the center of the leaf. Quite ornamental, adding that kind of splash of color as well. In terms of more color, then this one here has much more kind of pink coloration to the leaves, especially as they come out new, and then they kind of fade a little bit more to a lighter green color, which will support the plant. Here we've got a variegated with variegation that's spread mostly along the veins of the leaf, giving a lighter color to the center of the leaf as the outer parts still remain green. Again, a very nice cultivar. And then finally here we've got one where the variegation is a little bit more irregular, where you have large patches of pure white, and then areas where there is white intermingled with the green, and areas where there is just green leaf as well. But again, nice kind of variation in the leaf colors and interest with some of these. As I was saying, they are vining plants, and you can see that on this one in particular, as it starts to grow and produce a vining stem that will continue to grow longer and longer. You can see the roots that have come out from the nodes at each leaf, that if this was growing on the ground, would then root into the ground at that point in time to help support the further growth of this vining stem. In a pot, they don't have the possibility to do this, especially in a 15 centimeter pot as this one is in. In a slightly larger pot like here, you could take the vining stems and just kind of bend it back on itself and let it touch in which case then it will reroot into the pot and continue growing. Alternatively, if you want to let these grow, you can use a trellis of some sort, like is what is in this pot here, and then just kind of take the stems and wind them through and around so that the actual plant is a little bit more upright in its growth as well. However, if you want a more upright plant, what we can also do then, as has been done with this one, is as these stems grow, the vining stems grow, we cut them back about 5 or so inches, and from there it will reshoot from that same stem and eventually over time give you actually quite a robust base to the stems upon which these start to be a little bit more self-supporting initially. If you didn't cut it back anymore, it would still produce these vining stems, which would then grow and start creeping all over the place again. But if you continually just cut it back, and when I say that, we're talking maybe once every few months, essentially, just to cut that growth back, because it'll take a little bit of time for the latent buds to break and to start growing again. What you get is more of an upright kind of plant that can be displayed quite nicely in a pot, as we have it here in this ornamental outer pot, cover pot. What will also happen is from the base of the plant, you will then start to see new growth, new shoots starting to come up as well. And this one, it's just starting to form. And they will then start to form new vining stems that will continue to grow and increase the original root ball of the plant. And as a result, these guys can actually cover quite an area of ground in a short period. I have seen some people let these kind of get attached to a wall, as the roots will then essentially hold them to the wall. But I'm never quite sure whether or not that's going to damage something like the brick that we have behind us. The other option is to create a moss pole that can be put into the pot as well and allow the vining stems to grow up that, in which case you could get it growing taller than what this little plastic trellis is able to here. In terms of watering, these guys are fairly drought tolerant. Again, we normally, on average across the year, we would be watering about once a week. But again, with our seasons as they exist, during the cool, dry season from April through to about July, August, the plants are not going to be as actively growing because the temperatures are generally cooler. We're looking at probably watering once a week, if not once every 2 weeks. You could get away with that. Same idea with most houseplants. You can just kind of poke your finger into the root ball. If there is about 3 centimeters of dry soil on the top before you start feeling a little bit of moisture, it's time to water the plant, and that way, at watering at that stage, it'll keep it quite healthy and allow it to continue to grow and develop. When we hit the hot, dry season, so starting around August, September through to November, December, these guys will need to be watered more frequently. We're probably looking at about twice a week, maybe once a week, depending on where you have it also. In the brighter position that it is, the more water it will most likely need. If it's close to a window or anywhere where there's going to be breezes coming through, again, you're going to have to water it a little bit more regularly than if it's in a more sheltered position. During the rainy season, you can normally bring that back down to just watering once a week, because there's going to be more humidity, there's going to be not as bright conditions as we got more cloud cover, the temperatures have come down a bit more. The watering regime should be fine about once a week, but it's always safe to just check to see that. In terms of fertilization, again, as with most of our other houseplants, if we're looking at the active growth period, say between the middle of the hot, dry season, so September into October, through to about February, March, is the periods that we fertilize. Again, a half-strength soluble fertilizer. These plants are not really grown for flowers. In fact, I don't think I've ever really seen flowers on them. In that sense, having something of a well-balanced fertilizer with equal numbers of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium will suit these plants very, very well. Again, I don't normally suggest doing it at full strength, mainly just because if the growth becomes too luxuriant, that can potentially lead to other pest problems and things like that. We have never had too many problems with these in terms of insects, occasionally with mealybug, but other than that, they're actually pretty pest-free, which is fantastic. And you know, the versatility of them in using within a house setting, where you can go for something that you then have as a more upright plant, or something that can sit higher up on a shelf and drape down, giving you a little bit of a hanging plant. The versatility of these plants is fantastic. And then when you have the various different leaf-colored forms, it just adds quite a nice all-round aesthetic to these plants as interior plants. They are definitely worth growing in the house. I would suggest trying them. The solid green leaf ones could probably deal with a lot more shade than what some of these variegated types would. They probably need slightly brighter conditions in order to really grow and develop well. But as with most plants in the home, you might have to shift them through a few different places until you find the spot that the plant likes the most. But that said, give the arrowhead vine a try. It is very rewarding, and it's a great kind of color splash in the house. So thanks very much. Cheers.